Howdy folks, how we going? Welcome to the brewery, brew day. And today is something new for little John, the first time. I'm brewing a funky beer, proper farmhouse ale, a beer soured and fermented with wild yeast and Brettanomyces. So yeah, something completely new for me. Something completely new for the channel. So before we get into it, big shout out to all the supporters of the channel, Patreons. Thank you guys for your support, guys and ladies. Your support is much appreciated. Keeps the channel going. I say it all the time, but it's true. Allows me to do this sort of thing. This sort of thing wouldn't be happening, without the support of, the Patreons, particularly the Patreons. So there's a link down below to the Patreon. Have a look at it. Might be just the sort of thing you're interested in. Other than that, subscribers to the channel, thank you as well. And if you aren't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. And if you like what's going on, give me a thumbs up. So I've got water in the Robo Brew. Someone made a comment recently that they hadn't seen the Robo Brew coming out much for a while, and true, yeah, I've been sort of focusing on the Nano a little bit, so I've just been getting myself back into that line of brewing again. But the Robo Brew is not dead and buried. It is still gonna it's still getting its uses, so it's underway. So I've got water in there. I've got 24 litres, which is a full volume mash. I'm doing a 15 litre brew. Well, I'm looking for 15 litre in the fermenter. I'm probably actually got more water than I need, because what I've done just a minute ago is I've pulled the recipe down a little bit. I was originally planning on doing a 60-minute boil with a normal, cooling with the immersion chiller. But first day of winter, and winter has kicked in hard here in the hilltops. It's cold, but it is windy. The wind is icy, and for me to run the chiller, I need to run it through the back doors of the garage, and the wind just blows straight in there, which means, one, it's going to be fucking quite noisy. It blows and fucking howls through the doors when they're like that. But two, it gets quite windy here in the garage, and it's going to get fucking cold. I've got heating through here, which keeps it warmish. It's not house warm, but it's comfortable. I open them doors, let that wind in, it's going to get fucking real cold in here. It's about 5 degrees outside. I don't need it being 5 degrees in here while I'm trying to do stuff. So I've made a bit of an adjustment. So we're going to do a shorter boil, and I'm going to do no chill as a result. So I've probably got a little bit more volume in there than I need, but we will see where we finish up at. If need be, I can drop a little bit of dextrose into this brew to get me original gravity up. But we'll see how we go. So, like I said, 24 litres in there. I'm brewing essentially a Saison, a farmhouse ale. So I've knocked up a bit of a recipe for that. What I'm using, and the main component, is the culture. The yeast culture, which has come from Jester King. And as you see there, it's from what they call bootleg biology. They're in the States, and they work with a lot of the breweries that do, like the well-known breweries that concentrate a lot on these funky beers out of the States. Jester King, I believe, are from Colorado, well known in brewing circles for their wild fermentations. They use yeast, that they harvest from their local area, and they generally ferment with, that's called co-ferment. They pitch with their wild yeast, and then they use the Brettanomyces. I think that's how you pronounce it. Don't crucify me if that's not how you pronounce it. I haven't looked it up. It's commonly called Brett, which is the funky yeast strain which gives you these farmhouse. There's sort of qualities that go along with that. So that then finishes it off and goes through, does its thing. So it's a long process. This brew will ferment for up to 12 months, but it won't do that, and I'll talk about that a little bit as I go. But right now, I'm getting into some water chemistry, just quickly. So what I'm doing, I've added calcium sorbate, vitamin C, and some sodium metabisulfate into the water at the moment to counteract the chlorine, and that's doing its thing while the water's coming up to mash temp. So quickly, I'll get some actual salts here. So let's click over here on Brewfather to my brew day page, and so we'll go through and we'll work off what we've got. Okay, we've got our yeast. Vitamin C's in. Sodium metabisulfate is in. So let's have a look at what other chemicals, minerals we need. Okay, we need baking soda, which I haven't got. It's over in the bloody cupboard. Epsom salt, magnesium, MgSO4. 1.3 grams. Now, I've calculated the water minerals based on a traditional Saison sort of a blend. So, because there is no sort of set target for, this sort of beer. Saison is, and style-wise, Saison is really as close as you're going to get it to traditional sort of style. As far as beer style goes, these mixed fermentations come down as mixed fermentation beers or wild beers. They don't have their own sort of style within the traditions. So, okay, we've got Epsom salt, gypsum, calcium sulfate, CaSO4 for the geeks. And now again, this is going to be, these amounts are going to vary depending on what your initial water is, and to some degree what you'd want to go. So I'm not going to really worry about giving you the actual amounts. Well, actually I can, just for a bit of a guide, but that's our gypsum. Calcium chloride. Now I've gone fairly heavy on the gypsum. I want to go more sulfate heavy than chloride, because I don't want that whole soft beer thing that you can get with the chloride. But I want some minerality in the final beer, along with the sour notes. Well, I think that's what I do, and that's what, well, I said I'm going off the recommended range for the style, and I've probably kicked up about 10% over midway. So all the numbers sort of I've pushed to just a little bit over that midway range. Canning salt. Now brewing software also says they also canning salt, because generally they're bloody based in America. We don't technically have canning salt in Australia. What I've got here is cooking salt, which is basically the same thing. So going with that. You can. I often use rock salt. But I've got the canning salt. It's here, ready to go. Rock salt's actually it's in the house, in the kitchen. That means going outside in that fucking cold wind I talked about, so that's not happening. So I'm going to go and throw this in. Actually no, I've got to get some baking soda first. Good old bicarb. Now this is something I don't use in a lot of brews, but it is needed in this one. Yes, and it's just exactly what the bloody missus uses in the kitchen, or you might use it if you're doing different things. I'm not being sexist at all. I'm getting in trouble with anyone. So, oh, that's us. Now, trying to destroy me bloody scales here. Okay, so that's our baking soda. So the only other thing now is some lactic, which I will grab over there. So we'll go throw this in. Okay, so that's in. Now I have cloudy water. It's always interesting when you add the chemicals, because it clouds the water up initially. It seems to be counterproductive, yeah, but that's where we go. Alright, so that's in. So, grain. Can't make beer without grain. So what we're looking at is, as I'm going for, I haven't followed any particular recipes. I did look online. There are a few Jester King recipes online, but none of them really fit in with sort of what I'm wanting to do. So I've just gone for a fairly simple sort of an ale sort of a recipe, something's just got a little bit extra character. So I'm going for some Barrett Burston pale malt, because I've got it sitting here, and it's a leftover bag I've got floating around, so I'm going to use it up. And again, with this funky that's going to come on, I don't think the grain itself is going to have a massive influence in, because the whole idea is that the yeast is going to just take over flavour-wise. So I'm happy to use up some of these malts I've got around. So okay, yeah. So the grains, 42%. So Barrett Burston pale malt. All of it. 34% Gladfield Pilsner. So again, that's just the tail ends of some stuff I've got sitting here. 400 grams, 15% pale rye. Which is going to give me just a little bit of spiciness, which we're going to get from the yeast anyway, but that's just a little bit extra help with some complexity within the brew. 4% of Cara wheat. And 4% of a straight wheat malt. And again, the wheat's for a little bit of tartness, a little bit of lightness, and the Cara wheat again, just to bring up a little bit more malt underneath. I didn't want a super light sort of a beer. And we'll run that to a target. Our target original gravity is 1034. As I said, I'm not sure how we're going to go with the slightly increased volume we got there. But if we don't get there, we can up it with a little bit of dextrose. But the reality is, this beer will ferment down to 1000 over time. So that's a 4.5% beer if we hit target OG. So even if we miss it by sort of 2 points, we're still going to be in that low 4% range, which I'm happy to be anywhere in that, 4 to 4.5 without any problem at all. So that's where we're targeting. So let's go and get the mash happening. Okay, with perfect timing. Just hit mash temperature as I was bloody standing here getting this organised. So I've got the false bottom in. Let's drop the malt pipe in. And get some grain in. Again, you don't make beer without grain. And I'm not going to worry about rice hulls because we're going full volume. I'm not too concerned about this mash getting too thick, so it shouldn't be a problem. There's only a little bit of wheat in here, so realistically last thing I should need to worry about is the mash not flowing. That probably just fucking curse myself, and we'll probably gum up like all shit. But anyway, see how we go. We're going without them. Yeah, it's generally a fairly standard thing on the old Robo Brew or the Brewzilla to throw some rice hulls in, but hey, let's live dangerously. Okay, so I'm mashing at 65 degrees, and I've only got the temperature to 65. I haven't worried about overshooting, allowing for the temperature to come back, because same thing. The exact temperature is not going to be too much of a concern. Been a little bit under for a part of the roof, not going to hurt. So we'll drop the. Actually, no, I'm not going to. I'm not going to worry about the bloody top because we're not going to be sparging, so it's not really necessary. Leave him out. I will put the overflow on just to give me a little bit of height. I'll drop it a bit so it's below the actual holes, just to be sure we don't get a silly overflow back in there. But for now, I'll give that 10 minutes before I start the pump. I'm only going to mash this for 30 minutes. So I'll give it 10 minutes just to sort of sit a bit, then I'll get the pump on to recirculate for the last 20. Right, we're about bloody 2/3 the way through the mash, which is only going to be half an hour. So we're just starting to get a little bit of a backup. After the 10 minutes I gave it a good bit of a stir, so it's been another sort of 12 minutes. It's just starting to get a bit gummy there on the bottom and back up, so just another quick stir. For the most part she's been recirculating pretty good. So I've dropped the mash back to 30 minutes, same as the boil, just saving a little bit of time. No need to go for a full long mash. Again, as I said before, it's not the actual mash itself, the beer itself is not the big star, which is sounds a bit silly, but yeah, what I mean about this, it's more about the yeast. So I just want to make sure we've got conversion. We've got about 1028 there on the reef rack, so that's going to get us ballpark. I'm not sure what target pre-boil was. I didn't actually look, but I would imagine we're probably a few points short, as I was expecting. But we will see how this goes, so I'll just let this finish off. Okay, that's mash done. So we'll ramp this temperature up so we can come to a boil. So I'll bring this up to 105 just to make sure she boils. And now let's pull the wort pipe. Righto, so mash is done. So I said there's no sparge, this is full volume. Now this just comes don't twist the fucking wort pipe after lifting it. I fucking did that before, but anyway. So that's going to start coming to a boil while that drains, and that was just starting to lift again there at the end of the mash. So that's actually draining through quite slowly, which isn't a bad thing. That's fresh water just dropping through. So all good. Let that finish and we'll go and look at some hops. Righto, we've just come to a boil. No, it's been boiling for, I don't know, maybe a minute or two. Just found my hops out. So with that slightly lower gravity, I was looking for 1031. Let's look at the 1031 at 21 litres. We're probably closer to, we're pretty close to that actually. Actually we're probably closer to 22. So I'm not too worried about it. I was thinking of adding a little bit of malt or a little bit of Dex, but I thought, nah, let's just run with it. So what I'm doing, I'd originally, on the recipe, I had a 30-minute boil with a 30-minute hops. I'm still going to get about 10 minutes before I actually put the first hops in. Okay, that's telling me 1031, which is actually on target. So that's just thrown that plan out the window. So I need to get them hops in reasonably quickly. I was thinking I had a little bit of time to play around with it, just let them let that boil off a little bit. But it seems we're closer to the mark, so that's all good. So we've got decent efficiency. So let's get this first lot of hops weighed up and in. And we're going with some Amarillo. Now, I said originally it was a 60-minute boil with a 60-minute addition. I've knocked it back to 30 because I'm just going to let this sit and cool once the boil's finished, as I was discussing earlier with the wind and whatnot. So now I can't find, according to my inventory, I've got a 12-gram bag of Amarillo in the freezer, as well as some Lupamax. I can't find the 12 grams of Amarillo. I do recall it being there, I can't find it. And I can nearly lost my fingers going through all the hops in there. So, I do have some Lupamax, so I've just substituted. So what was 6 grams on the original recipe, we will now make 4 of the Lupamax, allowing for the extra alpha acids, and pop them into a bag, because I'm not going through the bullshit. Anyone who follow Little John's on Facebook, you would have known that last brew we had a clogged pump. I had to pull it apart. So this is going in. Okay, so that's our bittering hop in. So let's start our timer on the boil. Right, so that's only going to get about 10 IBU all up. We're not looking for a lot. Again, we're letting the yeast do its thing, but I want just a little bit of hop character to back it up. We then got, originally I had Azaka in the boil. Now I've now pulled that back to basically that will be its flame out. So I've got 7 grams of Azaka. Okay, that's the end of the boil. So elements are off. In goes our flame out addition of Azaka. Now, I went to put this whirlpool arm in earlier, decided against it, but yeah, I do need to put it in because I want to actually, I do want to whirlpool this while I'm, well, it's killing, just to make sure we're getting bloody some decent water and hot contact out of these. of these last hops, so pop that in. Make sure that's getting everything moving around. That'll help it cool off a bit too. And I'll just throw a tea towel. Just throw a towel over that to keep the nasties out. So I can't put a lid on it at the moment. That's all good. Alright, so we'll give that 20 minutes and we'll add our whirlpool hops. 20 minutes. I'm going to sit for 20 minutes, then I'm going to drop in what was originally going to be our hop stand. I'm hoping that the 20 minutes will drop some temperature off. It's reasonably cool here in the garage. So it will start cooling, and I think we'll get a nice hop stand sort of effect without too much trouble. So we got another 14 grams of Asaka. Got tricky on me. 14 and 12 grams of citra. So they're basically equivalent levels of alpha acids from the Asaka and the citra, allowing for the AA differences. Damn, citra smells good. Good stuff, good stuff. Righto, so that's our hops. Okay, so I've just dropped the whirlpool hops in, Asaka and citra, and they will go now for 20 minutes. I've got the Robo Brew 5 set at 80 degrees, so it stays there for that 20 minutes. Once that's done, I'll switch that heat back off and just let it cool. And we'll come back and look at getting it into the fermenter and some final numbers. Alright, transfer time. It's the next day. It was still a bit warm last night, so I've let it go. So it's almost actually about 24 hours actually since brew day. So I've left this a lot longer than I would normally like, but that's how it turned out. So I'm hoping we haven't killed it, but the reality is I'm going to deliberately infect this brew anyway. So what may have occurred overnight is really nothing short of what we're going to do to it anyway. So I didn't really note where that was then, so I don't know what our actual volume was. But anyway, so we'll finish that and we'll sit down and have a look at some numbers. Okay. Looking at that, there's about 18 litres in the Robo Brew, which should get me about 15 litres into the fermenter, or thereabouts now. I'm not too concerned, and given we're going into that corning keg, I can't actually measure it completely, but I'm happy enough with where we are. So this is our hydro sample, and we are sitting at, I'm going to call that 1033. So we've ended up 2 points under our target gravity, so I'm pretty happy with that. I've never been able to fully nail in the actual straight up efficiency on the Robo Brew when it's not at full volume. So, but anyway, that's where we are, 1033. So that should get us. This should go down to 1000. It might take a bit of time to do that. The initial ferment is going to come from the wild yeast in the blend, which will get us more a traditional sort of a ferment. So we'll probably get us somewhere around 008, somewhere around there. And that's going to take a couple of weeks, your normal sort of ferment time. A little bit. Wild yeast tends to take a little bit longer. That's fine. And then the Brett will take, from what I've been reading and looking at this yeast and different cultures, the Brett normally takes about 3 months before it really starts to do its thing, and then it slowly ticks away, and over a 6-month period or thereabouts, or even a little bit longer, will drag every bit of sugar out of this wort and get us down to that 1000. So with that in mind, ferment process is a long one, but the tasting process is going to be a little bit broken up. So I'm going to be pitching our yeast culture, which is this fella, which I've made a starter simply because I'm splitting this with Jason Mullows. We're going to split the 4 cultures I've got. We're going to do a bunch of different brews. So I've made up a starter, and it's actually turned out handy that this wasn't ready last night, because this was still ticking away last night, but today she's done and she's dropped out. So we've got good growth. So I'm just ditching the wort off that, and that's what we're left with. Not a massive amount of yeast there, but as I said, it's going to do the job. Pop just a little bit of cooled water in there. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pitch half of this onto this brew, and the other half I'll put away in a vial for Mullows. So mate, that's yours going away. So as I said, going to pitch that. Stick the keg away. Just going to sit it in the corner of the garage. May not necessarily be a corner, but I'm going to stick it away, out of the way, and just let it do its thing here at ambient. It's winter. Garage sits generally sort of 15, 16 at the coldest, up to around sort of 18, 19 on the warmer days of winter. So it's not as warm as you could push this yeast. You certainly, if you wanted to turn it over a little bit quicker, you could certainly run it at 25 or 30 degrees. But I'm in no rush. Gonna let it just tick away nicely. So in 3 months' time, I'm going to sit down and take, I'll sit down and do it, and I'll take off about 6 long necks, so about 4 litres. I've got long necks here which are, I think they're 640ml bottles, so I'll take 6 of those off, so a bit under 4 litres at 3 months. Now this is going to be fermenting obviously under pressure, so they'll be carbonated and ready to drink. They'll just need to be cooled down, and then 3 months after that, which will be just before Chrissy, I'll take another 6 bottles off. So I'm expecting the first 6 bottles to be really just a sort of a nice Saison, lightish alcohol, probably somewhere around 3.5%, 3.3, 3.5, something like that, I'd imagine at that point. That's an unknown at the moment. That's just sort of where I'm thinking. Then at the 6 months, it should be, I'm hoping, mostly done. The Brett should be starting to kick in, so we should be able to start getting some experience on what that Brett flavour is going to bring. And then I'm going to let it sit for another 6 months after that, and I'll bottle another 6 bottles. And that should leave pretty much nothing in the keg. That should take about, because I'm going to lose about 2 or 3 litres out of the bottom with the cut down dip tube to allow for the yeast crud at the bottom. And that'll be her. So over the next 12 months we're going to get a couple of tasters on this brew, and I'll be doing similar with the rest of the rest of these funky bunches as well. So something to look forward to. It's going to take us a little while to get there, but we will get there. So don't strap yourselves in too tight for this one. Keep your eyes on other stuff, but just keep in the back of our mind that this one's coming along for some tasting down the track. Hey folks, just a quick add-on, change to the fermentation process on this brew. After some chats and things with a few fellas online last night, which is, was when the ferment started, I have moved the fermenter into the ferment fridge at 25 degrees, and I'm going to sit it there for about a week, sort of 5 to 7 days. And that's to help to get the esters and the yeasty notes from the Saison part of the culture, to get them into the beer. Sitting in the garage with no real heat and with some pressure on it was potentially going to subdue those flavours, which are, realistically a big part of, especially the younger development of this beer. So it is where I'd intended to go, but I'd stopped because I didn't want to tie up the fridge, because I was planning on another brew coming forward, which meant I wouldn't have had the fridge to do that. I'm just going to push that other brew back a little bit and let this do its thing. Like I said, give it 5 or 7 days to run from, and realistically we'll probably only be maybe 5 days before I pull it out, and then just let it sit at ambient and get some pressure onto the keg. Because at that point I do want to wind that pressure up, and I ideally want to do it while the beer is still fermenting, and use that fermentation process to carbonate and create CO2. I don't want to have to add CO2 to this beer to get a carbonation level. Long term, that is not going to be the issue, but short term it may be. So just a slight change from where I'd put on the video, just to keep you exactly in the loop on where we're going with this one, because I think there's going to be a few of you guys at home that are fairly probably going to follow this one a little bit closely. So okay, yeah, I like that. That's light on the malt. Just a little bit of hop there. It's a fairly simple beer without a lot of character going on, and I think the yeast is just going to really be able to dominate that really well, which is exactly what we want. As I said, that was certainly not a beer I'd be brewing as it is if I was looking just to brew that with a normal ale yeast. So anyway guys, ladies, folks, everybody, we're there. Always, thanks to everyone for supporting the channel. The links are all down the bottom. If you've got any comments or any questions, and I would expect there's going to be a few as we go along on this journey, stick them down the bottom. Like I said, this is very new territory for me. It's old school Little Johns. We're going to sort of might learn a bit of stuff together. So anyway, I'm going to go and pitch this now. Get a close up and get it put away. I'm not going to bother showing you that, just you know what that looks like. Basically, all I'm going to do now, it's finished transfer. I'm going to pitch after that. I'm going to put the lid on the keg, and I'm going to sit it aside. So I'll stick a spunding down on it. But anyway, guys, that's it. So for now, till I see you again, brewing beer, drinking beer, or talking beer, good brewing.